WWL 870 out of New Orleans, AM and FM. Also, Mike Detillier Draft Report. It's out right now. I've got my copy right here in my hand. I love to be able to break this thing down, especially as we lead in to Nashville, Tennessee. Mike Detillier, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Pleasure, Ron. How you doing, bud?
I'm good, Mike. And, man, one of the things I love about your draft guide is you go through and you kind of go through your opinion. You're a guy that's been covering this industry for many, many years. You go through, you tell us how you think the draft is going to work out, but you also evaluate the different positions, whether it's free safety, cornerbacks. You go through and you rank these different guys, and you kind of share your opinion in the write-up, and it's always fascinating information. If you're looking for one of those magazines that's got a lot of fluff, this is not one of those. I don't think there's one ad in the entire book. It's just a lot of great information.
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate it. Yeah, we I've gotten approached about doing advertising stuff in it, and I just turned it down. It's you bind it for the book, and so I try to give my own opinion. If I was scouting for a particular team, it would be different because I would know the type player they're looking for. So this is sort of generic, but it's my look at them and what I think that they can accomplish in the National Football League, and to connect the dots of 34 years of doing this and seeing the strengths and weaknesses of a player. And when I first started this, Jim Finks, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame, great general manager with the Vikings and the Bears and the Saints, he gave me some great advice. And he'd always tell me that there's about 2% of the NFL that no matter where they ended up, production would be the same. They would produce at the highest level, no matter what. But he said, basically, we got a little under 2,000 people in the NFL, just a handful of guys that can produce at that level. He said, everybody else is fit. And he said, always remember that sometimes you're picking a player, and because of an injury, it may derail them. You never know what fame and fortune does to someone who's 21, 22 years old and how they react to that, their work ethic. But he said the main reason you see failure is not so much the injury and not so much fame and fortune, but it's being in the right place, right time, right team, right scheme. And throughout the years, Ryan, I think he's been not 100% right, been 1,000% right. And people say, well, why so-and-so didn't play well here, but he played well somewhere else? It's just the right fit. And I see it down here in New Orleans. They had a player, Akeem Hicks, who they selected a few years back. This young man that was going to come to LSU, didn't qualify, was playing Canada. Saints picked him in round 3. Kind of bounced him around from end to tackle. Didn't make it. They deal him off to New England. Has a solid run there for half a year. They didn't re-sign him. He wanted a lot of money. Goes to Chicago. And Akeem Hicks is one of the most dominant inside players in the game today. Well, why didn't he make it in New Orleans or in New England? But he made it in Chicago. So it all kind of came around for him at that particular spot. And I get it. And I think that's a lot to do draft-wise. I think there's a lot to do with that. And that's why I try to give you a firm opinion on a player. But a lot of times, too, it's kind of where you end up in the league and how you're used.
Mike, when you listen back, and I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to Nick Saban, but he was asked about too many players coming out, and he had some valid points. I don't know if he should have thrown a player out there like he did, but he did, and he had some reasons to talk about, if players would come back, spend one more year, maybe they could improve their stock and kind of get some more of that guaranteed money than kind of being a third-round guy. Where do you stand, Mike?
He's saying this, Ryan, in essence, he's way ahead of the curve here. He's way ahead of everybody else. He knows what is being put out there by Vince McMahon and the XFL, that they are not going to play by NFL rules. they're going to go after freshmen and sophomore players to play in their league. They don't want to compete against the NFL for dollar on draft choices. But you know what? We're competing against no one if we go after guys after their freshman year or sophomore years. And I think this is Nick's Gettysburg Address to the young players in college football that you are going to be lured into this by the new league, and be careful. And he gave the numbers and statistics to base it out. Nick's been playing under these rules. He had a similar speech when he was in LSU. I didn't hear him say anything when he went to Miami about juniors coming out early. He kind of kept that under hat because he was in the NFL. But he had similar comments here when he was at LSU. But that's not for NFL. In essence, Nick is ahead of this, ahead of every coach, and he's doing this understanding that when you look at the talent level, that where the XFL is going to hit and go after freshmen and sophomore players is not going to be the Pac-12. It's not going to be the Big 12. SEC, ACC. They're going after those guys. And I think this is his sort of Gettysburg Address to the other coaches. You better pay attention because we could be facing a situation similar to college basketball in a lot of ways. One and done or two and done. And so that's why he said it. I don't think, had very little to do with juniors coming out early. I think he was casting that speech out to freshmen and sophomores that next year at this time you're going to see McMahon's new league go after. They're not going to try to compete against the NFL. They're going to go after another group of players that they have no competition now. And unless the NFL redoes their rules, which I doubt very seriously, that's who he was talking to.
See,
and it's going to have an impact. It's going to have an impact on the Alabama program and Clemson and LSU and A&M and Georgia, or you name it. They're going after those players that are underclassmen. You know, if it's $200,000 or $400,000, that's a lot of money for a 19-year-old. And I'm just telling you, Ryan, the Pandora box has been opened with that, and we're fixing to see the genie come out real quick next spring, where they're going to attack and go after people after their freshman year and people after their sophomore seasons.
Wow. Well, that's why we have you on, Mike, is you can help us understand Nick Saban. I mean, everybody's sort of taking the NFL route. You think it's for the future league that's going to be developing. For a lot of people don't even know the Vince McMahon league that's going to be developing, the XFL. Is that what they're going to call it? The XFL. It's coming back, right? Next January. Right. And as you said, they're not going to put an age limit. They're actually going to go after the same players the college game is going after.
They are basically going to be full throttle, knowing that early on you can't compete. And this developmental league that they started, the idea was good. The problem was the NFL was not 2 feet in. All they did was dip a toe in the league that crumbled. But Vince has a different idea to this. And he has always strongly felt that a spring league would work in the NFL. After the NFL season, I should say. And he's promoted this, and I've been at events where he's talked about it. There is a hungering for football after the Super Bowl. There's a hungering for it. And his approach to it, in that we're not going to try to compete. We're not going to be like the USFL and get into a deal where one or two owners try to buy themselves an NFL franchise. He said, we saw that. And he said that didn't work. But he said the spring league worked for them when they wanted to keep it in the spring. It basically was when President Trump tried to force this in to be competitive against the NFL. Come on, you're not going to compete against them in the fall. It just wasn't going to happen. And one of the things he always said is, we will have no age limit to come in. And that struck me, that's where I think he's going to try to hit and go after players at this level. And so this is Nick's speech to the other coaches, to players, that, hey, guys, I see it long before anybody else. The sports writers don't want to talk about it because they don't understand it. The coaches don't want to say anything because it might rub players on their squad the wrong way about, okay, coach, you want me to go play for you. You're getting paid a lot of money, and my assistant's getting paid a lot of money, but I ain't getting paid. And you telling me that this is wrong? And they got a lot of coaches that instead of taking a step forward, they took 2 steps back. Nick took this step forward, and he's telling you that, hey, this isn't about the NFL. These rules have been in place since 1990. What it's for is for the new fledgling league. And their deal is, it don't matter what the NFL does. And we're going to go after your underclassmen. And this is, how long it'll last, I don't know. But I think it'll be an assault on the college game. Especially a big assault for the SEC. Where you can't tell me that after what you saw Grant Delpit play a year ago, he's not ready to play in the pros? That Tua is not ready to play in the pros? And this is what he's saying. Hey, guys, wake up. Wake up. They're going to go after those players today. And I think we're fixing to find out real quick that I think what Nick is saying, he's howling in the wind, but he's the only coach howling it right now. But I think others will follow now. Now that Nick did it, I think others will come in and start to repeat what he says. But this had nothing to do with the NFL. This had everything to do with what he sees. He can see the storm in the Gulf brewing. And that
he's always 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else.
Good God. He's always been like that. And so now, which program could be affected the most? You look at it. It's going to be Alabama, Clemson, right? Those
sure.
programs are going to get hit if the XFL can stay afloat. But next spring, there's 3 or 4 guys that get lopped off of their rosters. And you lose a couple guys early to the NFL junior-wise. You start to see where this starts to shave the ice off of what you built. And he's telling you this, that I see it coming. I hear the winds long before I feel them. And this is why he made that comment. To me, that was an easy one for me to figure out. I knew where he was going with that. Because I had heard him say about, he felt there's a certain maturity level, and if you didn't get an early round pick grade, to come back and play another season of college football. And now you see guys 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, they coming out. And sometimes their parents come to me, and sometimes they come to me about draft grade. I would never tell somebody come out or stay in. That's their personal decision. To hear a young man tell me, my mom has nothing. I have 4 siblings I got to worry about. 4th round pick money is a lot of money for me if I get picked in the 4th or 5th round. So now Vince is going to come out and say, hey, we're going to guarantee you this amount of money. Come on, Ryan. You're gonna see the doors open.
Mike, what's this league going to pay? Do we know yet? I mean, is this league going to pay a significant amount?
It's been rumored that they would go in the 250 to 300 range.
Oh, so now I see your thread. Okay, I didn't know that was where it was at. So you darn right it's going to cause a hurt for college football.
It is going to – you can – listen, the hurricane – he's telling you before the hurricane hits, I'm going to tell you the warning. I'm telling you. And it's going to have a major effect on college football. Now, a lot of writers, I've seen this before, heard this before. Really? When? And from who? And if you remember the USFL, who went after Herschel Walker as an underclassman? The New Jersey Generals. USFL. Herschel, they bucked the system at that point in time. And so I'm just saying, I got a feeling I knew where he was headed with that direction. And it's going to be something to watch as we come around, the salaries that could be potentially set for players and the rollout. And for a lot of these young guys, okay, let me play there as instead of my sophomore year and junior year. And then, you know what? I'm draft eligible for the NFL.
Mike Detillier, let's go back.
So I get paid for 2 years.
Sure. Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, you're offering a kid, and I listen. I mean, we're not. Let's put a value of where some of these degrees really are. And I know we talk about graduation rates.
Yep.
Look at the degrees, okay? I mean, I'm not. These are not molecular engineer. A lot of these are some, not all, but there's some. That degree will get you no more at a fast food restaurant than it will get you a quality job. So, you're sitting there and you're looking at a guy. It's a 5-star quarterback, and you're saying, okay, you come and play in my league, I'll pay you $250 a year, or you can go to Clemson or Alabama and you can go get your underwater basket weaving degree.
The other part too, Ryan, is I think Nick sees this also with this transfer rule, in that the NCAA getting involved with you not having to sit out. And when you look at the numbers, it's been a high degree when they have went to the NCAA and asked for a transfer without having to sit out a year. And I've talked to Coach O about this. And he was like, Mike, I can't really even fathom that what is this going to do to college football too? The opening of the door where, a guy gets upset that he's not playing much as a freshman or a sophomore. And you know what? I'm going, and I'll give you a reason why I'm leaving. He goes to the NCAA, doesn't have to sit out a year. Or does that player say, you know what? I think I'm good enough. I can play in the XFL. I'm going. I ain't playing no more college football. I'll get my 1 year playing time in the XFL, and then I'm draft eligible. So you can start to see here where college football is going to be totally different, I think, over the next 5 or 6 years because of the transfer situation. I don't know the longevity of the XFL. But if they have any legs to it in longevity, it's going to have a major impact on, especially in the SEC and ACC football, where if you look at the top recruits, where are they headed? You can say, well, maybe Ohio State could get affected, and they could too. But the majority of the effect is going to be in the Southeast Conference and the ACC, where they're going to try to kind of handpick players that can go in there and get some seasoning, so to speak, at the XFL level, and I get paid, and then I can go to the NFL afterwards.
He's a college and pro football analyst. It's WWL, AM and FM, the M&D NFL Draft Report that you can order right now, saintsreport.com, MikeDetillier.com. An easy way to connect with Mike is straight up on the Twitter account. Mike, we got you on to talk about the NFL Draft, but you've solved the Nick Saban riddle. Nobody up until this point, I've heard nobody bring up what you're talking about, but I think it's an absolute brilliant point because it may be a threat to where they're going in a little bit different player with Vince McMahon and the new XFL that's going to be starting up next year. We appreciate you solving the Nick Saban riddle.
That one was an easy one, Ryan. I'll be honest. When I heard it, I knew exactly where he was going with this. And having heard Vince talk in different functions about it, I sort of know where he's going with this too, in that he doesn't have to compete have a competing league again with players if I go after them after their freshman or sophomore years. And so the money doesn't have to be as much and that sort of thing. So, some of the things that we saw, I just think that it was just not handled right. It should have been a developmental league for the NFL. And instead of sticking a toe in, they should have had both feet in. And they were trying to hold off McMahon. But now the door is wide open for him to come in. And I do think spring football has a place in our society, so to speak. It's watchable. And I think over the course of time, it'll be a good brand of football. Now, again, getting the major network involved, that sustained the USFL because they were an ABC, ESPN product at that time. Can Vince sustain that with a major network, putting it on, and I'm sure he'll get a lot of help, and I'm sure he's got deals already set in time where that's a couple of networks that don't have much on from March through June, with the exception of maybe soccer. And I think that's where he's headed with this. And so, it's going to be an interesting outlet next year because I think the transfer rules are going to change the way we look at college football. And I also think, at least for next year, what impact the XFL will have on going after underclassmen.
Well, Mike, listen, I'm out of time because I'm up against this break, but I wonder if college football adjusts and calls an audible and tries to pay college athletes. Do they try to adjust to this? Because we already see a bill, and I'm literally pushed up against a break. We're going to have to discuss this next time, but there's a Colorado bill right now out there that would let college student athletes be paid, challenging the NCAA rules. Maybe that's where we open the door and, Katie barred the door. Here it comes. College athletes are being paid.
I agree with him.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan.